Get ready for an uplifting experience with Coached Soul. Join us as we bring you the dynamic duo of Steve Hudgens, a licensed professional counselor, and Kenya Evelyn, a transformational leadership coach. Together, they'll guide you through engaging episodes filled with valuable insights and actionable tips on mental health, relationships, self-care, emotional well-being, and personal growth. Coached Soul is your go-to podcast for empowering discussions that will help you thrive. So let's get started and welcome our hosts, Steve and Kenya.
All right, part two. I mean, I hated to do that, Kenya, to end on such a Cliff Note version, because I think what we have to share about showing up is important.
Yes.
And I'm just going to have to jump right in because this analogy that I was trying to remember, right?
Yes, it's alive. Mm-hmm.
When I think about showing up, it's allowing that safe space. So I want you to think about your partner, whether in your relationship or marriage or whatever. I want you to think of them as a cocoon, a butterfly cocoon. They're metamorphosing in such a way that if you allow them time and space, they're going to emerge. And you can see, if you allow that growth for them to show up, how beautiful can that be? You know, when I think about my situation, it's about the things I know now. I wish I knew back then, but then I wouldn't be a therapist.
But there's no way to know back then, right? Isn't it beautiful?
But it's allowing people to grow and have the patience for that person to show up. Sometimes
100%.
it takes a little longer to be able to communicate the needs and so forth. And that's very important about needs. And I know we talked a little bit about last week about showing up in the arguments and calling time out. And here's what I mean by processing speed. I love this couple that I get to be challenged in. And we're trying to learn how to reduce arguments. They got into an argument. He got heated. He asked for some space. And, you know, in therapy, we clarified when we ask for space, put a time on it. You're responsible for going back to her to say, I'm ready.
Correct.
But in that moment, he's stewing in his thoughts. She's over at the kitchen table on her laptop looking up some information. She's processing, she's changing careers, and all of a sudden she gets this email, congratulations, you're hired, here's a benefit package. And where do you think her emotion went? Not on the previous argument, but on her emotion of feeling on the mountaintop for succeeding in a difficult interview process, that here's this benefit package. And so she sends it to her husband.
So excited.
And she turns and says, can you look at this? And he blew up on her. So it's like, well, whoa. Because he's still stewing in his thoughts. But the preface is that he didn't know she was applying for another job.
Correct.
So it's important for us that when we show up, that some way we are able to find ways of communicating our thoughts, feelings, and needs. And listeners, if you feel like you're in this situation, therapy can help. And what I mean by that, in my approach to therapy, I don't cookie cut. Each person is individual, they're unique. I look at their processing speed, where they at or in the moment. And so when you come to me for marital therapy, I like to stair stack. What I mean by stair stacking is I'll meet with a couple 2 or 3 times so I have an idea of their body language. It's interesting how they sit on the couch, because they sit apart. And more we grow into our sessions, they start their body language starts turning towards one another and a little closer in the sessions, right? but it's about how do we be able to show up. And so when I stair stack,
Yeah.
I'll do 2 or 3 couple sessions, a him and a her individually, then a Meryl, because it's important. Because I think I was remembering when we talked a couple of weeks ago about this situation, that how do we show up in that manner to be present in that moment for each other, to be able to say, hey, I have a wound. I need to be mindful. So talk a little bit about what you were talking to me off mic
Oh,
in
I
regard to
have
that.
so many thoughts coming up right now, Steve. First of all, I just want to say thank you for giving us a visual. And most of my work is online, and I am remote, meaning all my coaching, all my, you know, the breakthroughs and recodes and masterminds. Literally everything I do is online. Otherwise, I couldn't do it with my busy life, which is perfect. But through their voices, I can hear it, because sometimes they want to be on Zoom or they are not, they cannot be on Zoom. It's all in the frequency of their voice. I'm excited, or well, I actually don't need to see, to hear, see, feel, and know what's happening just by the way they're breathing, or 100% by her. I actually don't feel even, the couple is not important together as much as hearing where each other have been separately,
Right.
right? And if they were doing well, and that's something that I want to change, like my intention in the world is that people will walk around, men and women and kids and teens, that they will walk around healthy, emotionally secure, so they don't come to us when they're in trouble. They come to us to learn emotional intelligence skills. They come to us to learn to communicate. They come to us to learn about themselves. Because if you don't know about who you are, dear listeners, if you don't know about how are you well loved, how do you feel, when do you feel happy?
Right.
Like this woman you just told me about. Oh, she was so excited about, hey, I'm going to share this with my loved one. He's going to be so excited. We're going to celebrate. We're going to have alcohol champagne or virgin champagne, but we're certainly going to have champagne. And she got none of that.
Right.
And here's the thing. I could be her. I was her 10 years ago. I learned to communicate with my husband like this, dude, or honey, or love, or amor, whatever, you know, whatever is your pet name for your husband, or his name. I got something, and it's so exciting. So I pre-frame him celebration. If you don't pre-frame what you want to receive, you will receive their state of being.
Oh, great point, Kenya.
Come on
Great
now.
point.
If you don't pre-frame, write it down. This is a writer. If you don't pre-frame how you want to be received, you will receive the reaction of the person's way of being. So if literally, I can be talking to my husband and he's like, oh, fudge muffin. He just got cut up. Yeah, I said, you know what, sweetheart? I call you later. Tell me when you were in a neutral space, because I have something really important to tell you.
Right.
He was not in a container to receive anything. He was in survival mode, driving, late for the ball game, or whatever. So listen to what I'm saying, dear listeners. We're looking at our boyfriends, girlfriends, fiancés, husbands as this infinite amount of support and loyalty and love, because you're partners, right? Isn't that what they're supposed to be? Keyword suppose. Actually,
Right.
they're just like you and me. And they are themselves.
So I want to bring an analogy. I love analogies to get a picture, especially for the men. You know, back in the day, you know, some people don't know what a stick shift is in a car. It's not an automatic. Automatic, you just push the gas pedal and a brake, and that's it. You just go. But a stick shift is where you have to put a clutch in to release the gear that you're in to shift into the next gear that you want to be in.
Correct.
Men are stick shift cars. We have to have a preface to know exactly where we are in the conversation. Hey, babe, I notice you're kind of busy. There's that shift in the clutch. I need a moment to talk to you when you're free. I have some exciting news to share with you. And I just want to share, not process anything, but just to share the information with you. Now we're into
Mhm.
that gear of, hey, yeah, give me about 5 minutes. I would love to hear what you're saying. Let me focus on what I need to wrap up here. Because sometimes with men, I like with me, if I'm in my dissertation and I am trying to focus, but my phone is going off, that's my fault because I should have the phone turned off.
Yeah.
But when it's a family member calling, I have to, there is no prefacing. I've got to put a pause on my thought. I can call them back to say, hey, sorry I missed your call. I was in the middle of something I needed my immediate attention to. It's that communication of being mindful of how to show up.
By the way, mindful is a perfect word. I love it and I connect it. Keep using it. I use
Good.
that a lot. Yeah, because mindfulness for me is the holisticness of
Yes.
mind, body, and spirit and emotions. All of it encompasses into, hey, we're in this world together.
Right.
I am assuming that we're here to win together. It's all the love, it's all the fruits of the spirit. Yeah, for me that's how it lands. So keep using it.
It's practicing, the intentionality of showing
There
up
we
in a
go.
relationship. And part of the thing that we didn't discuss, Kenya, is how do we become intentional in showing up? This means when I talk to a couple in session,
Yeah,
she wants to go and do something, but he doesn't want her.
sure.
Or he wants to go do something and she doesn't let him.
Okay.
There's a power balance here. And
Mm.
there's that, how does that help the other person to show up being intentional if we're robbing them of their individuality of doing something, as long as it's not a harmful situation that can create a demise in the relationship. So when
I
I
would
think
pay
of,
attention. Go ahead, finish your sentence when you think.
well, when I think about, being intentional, I'm going to say, hey, hun, there's an event with the guys this weekend. This is what we're going to do. X, Y, Z. I should be back. I'll be gone in a couple hours. I will text you if it takes longer, but my intention is to be back within 2 hours. Each person in a relationship needs that individuality. It's like taking a cell phone and plugging into the wall to get a recharge. So that person can show up in the marriage recharged,
Mhm.
and the intentionality of being a couple, going on dates. Guys, please, I hear this all the time in my counseling
Yeah.
sessions. The women are complaining that the men are not taking enough initiative to ask them on a date when they're married. And I get it, kids, events, soccer practice, baseball practice, whatever practices, and life just happens. And I'm sorry, when the kids get out, what are you going to do when you become an empty nester? How are you going to show up then? Kenya, take it away.
You won't.
Right.
You won't show up. The relationship will be dead. And this is why hubby and I are in intention awakening in this new phase of our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
In less than 2 months, we'll be married for 19 years. And because of this podcast and all the conversations we have, and dear listeners, I know you can hear from my voice or hear in my face if you're on YouTube, our face, not me. But when I speak, I truly am speaking from a place of authenticity. I don't claim to know everything, and I do claim that I speak my truth in vulnerability as much as I can. And what I got awakened is that hubby and I were a ticking bomb. if I am not dating you and he's not dating me, we are a ticking bomb.
Right.
Like we're in survival mode, we turn off the us as a couple, and the dial, the family dial is the only dial that is up. And that awareness would say, well, Ken, it's just a phase. Everybody goes through that. I get it. And it sucks with capital S, because I'm still a woman. I want to feel that I'm alive, and I am in a alive relationship full of
Right.
joy, passion, connection. And I can see some of my girls listening to this, eye rollings, like, whatever, that's utopia. Is like, is it? Is it? Because if I believe that it's utopia, then I don't even try. And then I accept being the, over 70% rate of divorce in the world. Then I'm accepting that is my
Right.
fate coming up in 10, 5, whatever, how many years. Now, if I am planting for empty nesting now, and I know that we've got no time, so maybe we wake up just a little bit early and we have coffee together without the kids. And that is our connection time. Or we find pockets of something
Right.
to be a couple.
You know what
And
I'm
that's where I'm at.
finding?
And that's where
Well,
I'm at. And I
yeah.
want to come back to another cliffhanger here. The word loyalty. Remember we talked about loyalty last episode?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So for me, that is me. Okay. Let me take a breath. For me, loyalty is not me being loyal to my husband. It's being loyal to my dreams. My little girl's dreams to have my marriage flourish and complete break the generational curse of divorce, because no one in my lineage has been married for as long as I have. And it's because I keep getting back to the same man with a newer version of me versus divorcing my husband and start with a new man. So throughout 19 years of marriage that we're going to be married in, like I said, in October 19, I divorced him at least 3 times. That will be another episode, because I know that you have been actually divorced 3 times, and I have been divorced to the same man 3 times. So that will be a great podcast for next time,
Right.
if you agree. Yeah, take it
But
away, Steve.
it's, when I think about showing up and being intentional, where you put your focus is where you get the most attention.
Correct.
If it's on
The most
self,
root.
right. So if you focus on self and not on your partner, you're going to grow dead. So in scripture, it talks about faith without works is dead. Here's the thing that I'm looking at differently. And in the religious world, they say that faith without works is dead, meaning that I got to perform or my faith is dead. I need to change that thinking, because when I read a faith without work, what I'm talking about is working on me. In 2 Peter 1, it talks about, to my faith add kindness, goodness to perseverance, self-control, self-recurrent, and it builds up to love as the last. That's my work. The work begins within me so that my faith grows. It's how do I show up for myself in working? Am I being kind to her?
Mm-hmm.
Am I showing self-control to her when I get angry? Am I persevering in the marriage when things seem tough? Am I growing in love in such a way that it becomes unconditional love for her? A lot of times I think when we look at our marriages, it becomes on conditions. You look at things in life, it's all conditioned. But love shows up to be unconditional. And,
Mhm.
talking with somebody the other day, it's about what is love? So here's how I do it logically because of the faith-based person that I am, is that it says that God is love. Okay. God never changes. He's always the same. Therefore, love never changes. Feelings change. Therefore, love is not a feeling. Love is an action in sacrificing for the other person. We have to sacrifice sometimes to be unconditional. Now, think about it. If I love my child, I have to sacrifice my wants and needs to set aside to say, hey, let's go get you something to eat, even though I'm busy. Mama, I want you to come and go to my soccer practice. Well, I got this podcast I got to do. Well, what's important? It's about showing up and being intentional. Having love unconditional means not holding fault. And that's another podcast too, about how sometimes we hold on to resentment. And sometimes these behaviors that are being present are not being changed. And so I understand that kind of resentment that's there. But if that person is trying to change and this person has resentment, where has the true apology began, along with the consistency and congruency of word and action, so that the person can let go of their resentment? What do you think about that, Kenya, in showing up
Oh, I have
about
so many thoughts. I don't even know where to start.
that?
Um, don't agree with the word sacrifice. Every time in my life that I felt that I was sacrificing, it followed by resentment.
Mm,
And that's not just Kenya. With every single client that I have had, if there is a tone of martyr or sacrifice, or I'll take it on myself, or I give, even if it's for the children. So maybe a better word would be choice.
yeah, because when I think
I
about
choose.
sacrificing, yes, that's what I mean by
I
sacrifice is choosing.
choose. I choose. Listen, you're not. I believe that you are channeling. You're receiving information by the collective, because the world is not just okay with the word sacrifice, but you're expected to be sacrificed. If you're a mother, you're considered a good mother if you sacrifice for your children. And I'm here to tell the mothers that there is no sacrifice.
Right.
Because if you keep perpetuating the word sacrifice and and the feelings and the frequencies of the word sacrifice, you are passing it on to your daughters, that when they become moms, that they are also expect to sacrifice their time, their beauty, their health, their hormones, their voice, their dreams for the family, because that's what a good mother does.
Mm.
True? Not really. I'm
That's
just
a
telling you,
whole different
it's a
podcast. We're
whole new
opening another
podcast.
can of worms. So
It's
to
okay.
regroup is, how do we show up in our marriage by being intentional with unconditional love, meaning that I may not condone the behavior, but I still love this person, but being patient enough to say, Kenya, what you said a while ago, I'm not sure if I received this correctly, but it hurt me in such a way that I'm not sure how you meant it. Can you clarify?
Do we have 2 minutes? I would like to end with something.
We do. Please do. Take it away.
Okay. I have 2 dogs, and it was their birthday this week. They're 2 years old, and they are not properly trained,
Mm,
which means sometimes they have accidents.
right.
So I have taken upon me, because clearly the children are not going to train them. I've given them a million chances. And again, I'm the adult and I'm the mama, and I know that I'm able to train them.
Mm-hmm.
If you are in your life and you see like, well, my intentions are really not being met by my partner, like I'm not seeing the reflection of I come in with love and I don't receive it, or I come in with the intention of actually have a pleasant conversation, but he's shut down, or vice versa. I want you to think about my dogs. I invite you to think about have them being properly trained. And no, I'm not saying that your relationships are dogs, but we are consciously or unconsciously training each other to show up in a certain way. Because of our podcast, maybe something open up for you.
Right.
And you're like, wow, I actually trained my kids that I do everything for them. That's why they're not XYZ. Oh, I actually train my wife that I am never open and available to hear her. So she's not even coming back anymore to ask for my hearing, for my opinion. So we consciously or unconsciously, we train each other in our lives how to show up for us up until now. And that's the beauty that I want to end. If today you made a decision like, you know what, I want to train the people around me differently. I wanted to train them that I am emotionally available and I want them to be emotionally available for me. So see it as baby steps. Would you expect a newborn baby to go running? No. It's literally baby step. They're going to roll over. They're going to lift their head. Any progress in the right direction gets to be celebrated. So maybe they can't be here in full presence and hold eye contact for 20 minutes. But if he put his phone down, it's progress.
I appreciate that, Kenya. And one of the things that was keeping in my mind, I'll use this and close it out, is the fact that I remember being the director at an inpatient, and I was called down for an emergency in one of the units. And I walked into the unit, and here's this young kid. He had to be at least 10 years old. And he's, 10-year-olds are what, about 4 foot, maybe 4'7". They're kind of short. And then you have this big, huge, tall guy who is, 6 foot, towering over this kid and trying to tell him he's got to do what he is told to do.
All right.
And I pulled him aside. Let's take a break. I pulled him out and I said, look, how does this help? Well, he's not respecting me, And I said, if a man has to demand respect, he's not respecting himself. When a man respects himself, he teaches respect. I said, this kid is in state custody. He's never been taught how to respect.
That's right.
Because he's in survival
He doesn't have the
mode.
skill. He doesn't have
Correct.
the skill. So he's expected to perform without a skill.
So that's what Kenya and I are talking about, is how do we train, or how do we instruct how we want to be treated? And oftentimes, if somebody is short, ask yourself, are they having a good day or a bad day? And it may trigger that stimulus response in you of that splinter, and you say, ouch, you were so rude. Well, wait a minute. Have we considered showing up for them and not yourself? I get it. We have our bad days. We could get short with a cashier because they're short back with us. But that's back and forth, and that's not being intentional living. And that's another podcast. Dang it, Kenya, we did it again. Another cliffhanger. Until next time, God bless and take care.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Coached Soul, where we aim to empower and uplift you on your journey towards personal growth and well-being. Remember, as you navigate through life, you don't have to do it alone. We encourage you to reach out to professionals, seek support from loved ones, and take the time to prioritize your own well-being. Stay tuned for future episodes filled with even more valuable insights and actionable tips. Remember, you have the power to thrive. And with Coached Soul by your side, anything is possible. Until next time, take care, stay empowered, and keep shining your brightest light.